Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hygge With It. Today I'm here to share with you what I read in August, and what I didn't read in August. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the DNFs. I'm just giving up, guys. I'm giving up on Growing Things by Paul Tremblay. It's a short story collection. I got, 160-ish pages in, and I just didn't like it. I tried for months. Like, I started reading this in July, and then it moved on over to my August TBR, and it just wasn't working for me. I wasn't enjoying it. So I am actually going to put this down, and I'm kind of grateful that I'm doing that. I don't think I would have put this down if little baby Nora hadn't shown up. But I really only want to read stuff that I'm really into right now. So this is not one of them, sadly. But like, don't listen to me. Like, honestly, so many people who read horror have loved that collection. Carla over at is it Carla and the Books or Carla's Bookish Bits or something like that? I'm so sorry if I'm screwing up her channel name. I really love her channel. This was her favorite book that she's read this year, and she reads a lot of horror, and so, you know, don't take it from me. Now, I also did a video that I had a lot of fun doing, actually. It was impromptu, where I just picked up a bunch of books to decide what I was going to read next, and I would read like a few pages from each and decide, and I had chosen The Doll Factory because the start of it was really interesting. It's very gothic, like Victorian London grit. So maybe not overly gothic, just very, very gritty, like you feel the dirt in London. And that is about a stalker of a woman who he meets very randomly. She thinks nothing of the meeting, and then he starts to stalk her. And you read from his perspective and you read from her perspective. Unfortunately, as I continued to read that, there were animal deaths, like dog deaths, like puppies. And there were children, like newborn baby deaths. And I was like due for Nora in a hot second, and I could not read about that. Like, couldn't. I'm putting that down. I don't know when I'll pick that back up. Maybe when she's a little older. I didn't know it was going to be that dark. It's like, I like dark reads. I do. But there's something, for me, with animals and babies. Ugh. Anyway, I put that down. And I've actually since picked up 3 things about Elsie, which I'm really enjoying. So all that to say, I had to put that down because I could not. But I did finish 4 other books this month, which is not bad. It's not bad at all. First up is YouTube Secrets. It's a book about YouTube. I have a channel, as you can obviously see. But I always want to make my channel better, and it was really interesting for the most part. I would say like the first half of it, I felt like I had already known a lot of the stuff. But as I went on, I did get some tips and tricks in there. Lots of stuff about doing YouTube videos seasonally, and trying to like work with the seasons a bit more. So you might see a bit more of that on my channel. So I got a few good tips and tricks. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't think it's like the be all end all book if you have a YouTube channel. But I do think it's interesting, and I did learn some stuff. So that was good. I also read Jane Eyre. This was a reread for me, and it was a 5-star reread for me. I was actually listening to this on audio while I was delivering Nora. So yeah, it has now a totally more significant meaning to me, that I was listening to that when I was in labor. So it wasn't delivery, it was labor, but still, it's got like a special place in my heart now. I really enjoyed it. It's funny because when I read it the first time, which was back in my early 20s, I had to read it for Queens. I did English Lit. And I felt okay about it. Like, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like hooked. I couldn't really empathize with Jane. And now I'm 38 and I read it and I really loved Jane so much. Now, I'm not sure about Mr. Rochester, if we're being honest. He is a bit of a jerk. He really is. At least much of the time he is. But then so is Mr. Darcy a lot of the time. So I don't know. But I really did enjoy Jane Eyre. It is so atmospheric. It's got just the right amount of darkness, of gothic vibes to it. And I really enjoyed that the book wasn't entirely centered around a romance. You really do read about Jane growing up. And I don't know if there were a lot of growing up stories about girls at the time that Charlotte Bronte wrote this. But I really loved knowing her as a child and watching her grow up. I almost wish that we had gotten even more about Jane later in her life, because I think she's still like late teens or early 20s when we leave her. But yeah, I really enjoyed every second of that. I also read a retelling called The Turn of the Key. This is by Ruth Ware, and it just came out in early August, and I snatched it up from a publisher, which was wonderful. I was so excited. I ended up giving this 5 stars. It was a lot of fun to read. So like I said, The Turn of the Key is a retelling for The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which is a ghost story, or is it, about a governess who goes to take care of these 2 kids, and she thinks the grounds are haunted. And it's a very disturbing book. It's a little tiny book. I so highly recommend you go and read it. You don't have to read it to enjoy The Turn of the Key in any way, shape, or form. You might not even know that it's a retelling if you picked up The Turn of the Key. And I just enjoyed this. This is about a woman who works at a daycare, but she's not very happy with her life. She decides to take a post to leave. I think she lives in London, and she has to go to the Scottish Highlands to babysit, basically, for this family, to nanny for this family. And they have 3 kids at home, and then a teenage daughter who lives away from home. She goes to school somewhere, private school or something. So she's going to this house, and the parents are these very prolific architects. They have their own firm. Is it a firm? Company. And they have a smart home. And they've bought this old home, actually. That's like a Victorian old home. And they've added on all of these smart home functions to it and these modern architect vibes to it as well. And so she thinks this is like a dream job. She'd be paid so much more. And she is paid so much more, but is it worth it when you are terrified all of the time? It really did make you feel nervous reading this book. I would not like to nanny at that place. And so you meet her when she's in jail, accused of killing one of the children. And she's writing to her lawyer, or a lawyer that she'd like to have on board to look at her case and like try to get her off, because she did not do this. She promises, she knows that she did not kill one of these kids. And yeah, I was completely hooked. So many twists and turns in here. You really don't know who done it, and I really enjoyed it, and it's changed my mind about Ruth Ware. I read In a Dark, Dark Wood before, and I hated that so much. But then this is 5 star. Like, what? Anyway, so I enjoyed that. And then lastly, I read The Night Visitor by Lucy Atkins, and I gave this 4 stars, and this is a thriller. It's categorized as a thriller, and this is another one like Tangerine where I feel like it's not quite that. I would say it's definitely a mystery, 100% mystery, but a gothic mystery. In this book, we're following a woman, a professor named Olivia, and she's just written a book, a biography about a female doctor in the Victorian ages. And she is at the launch of her book launch, and she's scanning the crowd, absolutely terrified that this woman named Vivian is going to show up there. And she's scared because Vivian knows all sorts of secrets about her, and she is uncertain about Vivian. And so Vivian, it might be one of my favorite characters that I've read because she was so developed, so intricate. She's this middle-aged woman that Olivia meets at a museum, and Vivian is volunteering, I think, at this museum. And she finds out that Olivia kind of specializes in women's history in the Victorian times, and she's a bit of a celebrity. Olivia is, and so Vivian's like, well, I've got this diary of this woman who lived in this home, and she was a doctor in the Victorian times, and you might want to look at it because, you know, she killed her husband, and she admits that in the book, in the diary. This is all very early on. I'm not giving anything away. And so, of course, Olivia gets so excited about that, and she says yes, and they start to work together, and Vivian is just so interesting. I loved her, and I was also terrified of her. In the beginning, when we meet Vivian, we jump back and forwards with points of view between Olivia and Vivian. And when you are reading from Vivian's perspective, she talks a lot about Bertie. You know, Bertie left me, and then I've been, you know, really struggling since he's been gone. And for several pages, I thought Bertie was her late husband, but Bertie is actually her dog that vanished. And Bertie in and of himself has his own little character to me, and I really fell in love with Vivian, and I was scared of her too, but I also really loved her. Again, this is twisty and turny, but it's really not a thriller. It's much more of a mystery, but one of the most lovely mysteries that I've ever read. So those are all of the books that I read in August. I think I did pretty well considering I had a child, and I was really obsessed with everything. Like, I was cleaning, and you know, before the baby came, I was a little bit crazy. So fingers crossed September will be just as good. I don't know how my reading is going to change now that I have a baby, but I'm just going with the flow, guys. I'm going with the flow. Let me know in the comments below what the best book that you read in August was, because I would love to know. Have you picked up or are thinking of picking up The Turn of the Key? Because I know that that's like a hot book right now. I will talk with you soon. Okay, bye.